you guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Yashita and I make content regarding books. So if you're interested in reading or if you want to get into reading, then this might be the channel for you to subscribe. Alright, let's talk about the books I read in October, which wasn't a lot, but I did start a lot of books but couldn't finish them, or started them all together and couldn't manage to get through them. So now they are transferred to November, which I am really positive about because there are a lot of good books that I want to read, which if you haven't watched my October TBR video, most of the books that are on my October TBR, I did talk about reading some of them in winter season, like when it gets chilly. So that is the time I'll be reading those, and the ones that I've already started, which are a lot. So let's get started, not counting the books because there are just a lot of them. So let's start with number one. First book I read was Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. It is the first book in Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy, and the next book, after this book, I immediately went on to The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber. It is the second book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. You can tell that I did enjoy this book. I wasn't into it from the beginning, but I started to see the hype, and while I got to the end, it did manage to surprise me and I was becoming a fan. So I was really interested to jump into this book, which, by the way, was a huge letdown. This book felt like it was written to write a book 3, which is so bad. It was good here and there, but it didn't end up surprising me or making me think that our main characters were better than in this book. So I kind of hated this book. Honestly, I just didn't tell you guys what these books were about. So in this book, the Once Upon a Broken Heart, I actually have a whole review on this and a reading vlog reading this book, but just for the sake of this video, I'm gonna talk about them, although you probably have heard about this book series because it's been talked about a million times before. So first of all, this book is about Evangeline, our main character, and she is just so heartbroken, and that is why she strikes a deal with the Prince of Hearts, and that is how the story starts, and things go uphill. And yeah, so we have romance, we have fairy tale-esque vibes, and a lot of things from twists and turns to heartbreaks and betrayals, even friendships. So the things that I really liked in this book were that even though it was crisscross, we are moving from here and there and here and there was an ending worth reading this book for. But with this book, what I felt was that we didn't see a lot of romance, which I did really want in this book, and the character, which I felt like the female main character would be such turned into a badass character, I didn't see that here. And even the ending, I just didn't see any personality development, any power development in our characters, and it felt like it could have ended perfectly, but then she wrote this book to just write a third book. So that was kind of disappointing. So that is why I rated this book 4.5 stars, which was a lot compared to this book. I rated 1 star because I was so disappointed. So this was my rant about these two books. I haven't read the third book right now because I didn't have the courage to get disappointed by another book. So I'm going to read that book super soon as well, just to get it out of the way. If it's not good, but if it's better than these two, or even a 3 or 3.5 star book, I'm gonna be happy that I read this trilogy. The next book I read and DNF'd was Liza Lemaire's Offside play. It is the second book in Sin Bin stories, and the reason I DNF'd it was a hockey romance, and I've talked about it in my reading vlog of reading The Ballad of Never After, so you can check it out, that video, if you want any more thoughts on these books. But the reason that I didn't complete this book was because I could predict every single thing that was about to happen. It wasn't anything new, but if you love cats, you should read it because a cat is a major part of this book, and it brings the love interest together. So not the main reason, but it is a huge part, and I think animal lovers or like cat lover in general would like this book. I read the second book in the this book is the first book in the series. I did read the second book first because then I didn't know that it was a series, a duology. Right now it is a duology, but it's going to have a lot of books as well because it is about this hockey team. So we already know like there are multiple characters and there are multiple chances for them to fall in love. But for I read the second book first and I liked it, but not too much. I think I rated it 3.5, but I saw these characters in that book and I had so high expectations. But this book didn't have anything that made it different from other romance books which are quite popular. So every trope, everything like we have already read is in this book. If you are in a mood to read such book, like if you don't want something new and are okay with cliches and your particular tropes, which is it has fake dating trope, it has grumpy not sunshine trope, which I didn't like about this book, but these were my thoughts. I DNF'd it, I think 33% into it. I'm not sure, I think 33%. So I read quite a bit. I wanted to finish it too because I had read the second book and also because I was enjoying it, but there was nothing new and I was like pulling my hair, like do something new. Everything I could guess, like now she's going to think this way and now this is going to happen and this is how they'll get together. Like every single thing was so predictable. It wasn't enjoyable to say the least. So I stopped myself there. And then, because when you are not into a book, you're not enjoying it, what are you reading it for? So this was the third book and I DNF'd it. So next book I read was a graphic novel I read on my Kindle, and it was the sweetest, most cutest graphic novel. It was The Secret Garden by, I don't remember the names of the authors or whatever you call the people who write graphic or draw graphic novels, but I loved it. You guys, if you have watched my previous video of me reading The Secret Garden, which that video got a lot of attention, which I'm so happy that you guys enjoyed watching that video because it had such a huge book haul, which I've never got so many books in one time. And last year I got 11 books on my birthday, but this time it was even exceeding that. I did read The Secret Garden and gave you my thoughts on some books. So okay, let's just come back to this video. So in that book, I did really like The Secret Garden book by Frances Hodgson Burnett. I think that is the name of the author, but I had some issues with it, like racism and some things that I didn't like in that book. If you want to go in deep, you can watch that video. But I read this graphic novel and I absolutely loved it. After the ending, this novel did shed some light on the issues that I had with the novel. So I was really happy that, like when you have a negative image of a book in your mind and you did really enjoy it, but there is just something that's bugging you, this book hit that spot away, and I am left with just so much love for this book, The Secret Garden. And it's about a girl basically whose parents die and she is sent to this uncle, and he is a person who likes to remain aloof, and this girl is even not a sweet child you would imagine, but she's very self-centered and not a fun kid to be around. But then like things grow from there. We see characters that I really enjoyed. There are more children involved and they found a secret garden somehow and they start working on it, and by the end of this novel we do get the happy ending we crave for. So how that comes together is really beautiful. So you should definitely read this book and come to this graphic novel afterwards, because I had such an amazing time. I rated this graphic novel a 5 stars because any less would have not been right. I read it in one sitting, and that too sacrificing my sleep. So I'm just so happy that I read it. I enjoyed it a lot and I highly recommend it. Even if you are not going to read the novel, just get to this graphic novel because you are not going to regret it. It's just so precious with these children and with this garden, and how like every important dialogue that the novel had, this graphic novel like captured that moment so beautifully, and I am in love. So next book I'm going to talk about is Go Hex Yourself by Jessica Clare, and I have a book review for this book, but I'm gonna give you some little context in short and my rating, obviously. So in this book, this girl who is a human is looking for a job, and there's this old witch who is looking for an apprentice. So this girl gets this job, but she is not aware that witches are real, and there is this whole debacle of, trying to make her believe. But this nephew of the old witch is trying for this human girl to just pack her bags and go home, because she is not aware of how things work in their world, and he doesn't believe in her. So that is what in short is happening in this book. First of all, I didn't like this aunt. I just despised her because she had no character. She was like one of the main characters till 30% of this book, so I was not enjoying the part where she was concerned, because she had just no personality or character. She was just acting whatever way she wanted, like not a particular way that you would want from a person of that character, but she had no character. She had no vibe to her that, okay, she's sweet, okay, she is bad. Like, she was a jumble of things. So I was not enjoying the character of the aunt, but I did love the romance of these two, because obviously it's going to be enemies to lovers. What did you expect? And shockingly, this book has spies. So if you're not prepared for that, don't read this book. But the only thing I actually liked in this book was the romance. So if you are looking for, a witchy book, like which is going to give you those vibes, witchy vibes, cozy fall vibes, which I was looking for, I didn't get. I just, enjoyed the romance, and that is all that I'm going to recommend it to you for. So that is why I rated this book a 3.5. For more thoughts, you can go to my book review, because I have just so many thoughts regarding this book if we go deep. But in this video, like, you just want to know if I like this or not, and I definitely liked it, but not for the things that I wanted to like in this book. But the romance was good and the chemistry was nice. Some books you are like, but other books you are like, this was this book, the second one. So I hope you guys are clear about my thoughts regarding this book. So now I'm going to talk about all of the books that I did start in this month but won't be finishing, because it's already November that I'm shooting this video. So I haven't finished them, but I did start it in October, and I am making my way through these books. So I'm going to give you, my thoughts as of right now. So let's begin. First of all, I'm reading Love in the Time of Serial Killers by Alicia Thompson, and this book, I'm not too far into it, but I am liking it, but it's not my vibe. Right now, our female main character has gone to her childhood home, and she is just sorting through things to sell this house because it belonged to her father, who she wasn't living with because of the divorce that happened between her parents. So she's just sorting through things because she's going to sell this house, and her father is dead, obviously, which I forgot to mention. So this is like really hard time for her. But besides that, about our male main character, he is her neighbor, and she is like doing PhD in true crime, so she's kind of suspicious about him, the vibes he gives and how he's acting towards her, something of that sort. So like, she is going to be more suspicious, and there's going to be love blossoming between these two. So I don't know how I feel about this book, honestly, because I haven't read much of it, just 40 pages, I guess, and that is not a lot for you to, judge the things that are going to happen. But I am okay with the writing style. It's nothing new or like witty or funny that I can tell you guys. But if I were to, pick up a book, I wouldn't read this book. As simple as that. I did imagine some kind of humor, but it's not there. And right now, I don't see any characters that I have especially fallen in love with. Even side characters, I don't like very much. She isn't close to her brother too, so there's no family you can, join yourselves to. So these are my only thoughts right now. Next book is Blood Like Magic by Liselle Sambury. I finally picked this book up after so long, and it's about a witch family, and this witch who doesn't get an opportunity to become a witch because she fails in this test, but she is given a chance to, revive herself and become a real witch if she has the courage to kill her first love. So there's this thing of whole finding love and stuff like that. I haven't read much of this book too, but I was kind of weirded out by how this book started, but then I realized that the representation of female having this kind of power in her body is like celebrated in this book, and that is what I really liked. So I was kind of happy to see how we are going to grow from there. This book has magical realism in it, so you kind of, when reading a fantasy book with magic, you kind of feel afar from it and not like in a real world. But this book definitely has some connection with the real world, and I can relate to a lot of things. I will say that about the witchy concept, like some of the characters like are introduced so soon, a lot of characters, so I'm really not feeling about learning the history of these people. So that is something that irked me, but for the most part I'm just starting it, so maybe the author will explain herself more, but a lot of things I just couldn't understand and had to move through. So those were some paragraphs that didn't make sense to me to be introduced in such short time that I read this book. I'm not too far. I don't want to open this. Okay, I'm not too far. I just read 26 pages of this book. So this was another book that I started. Next book I started was Phantasma by Kaylee Baker. I think that is the name of the author. I did try to remember it, guys, but ignore me if I couldn't. But I did start that book. I was liking the vibes of it. I didn't get too far. I think I'm not gonna say the percentage because that is going to be embarrassing as hell, but I did start it. I was enjoying it, and that is where we left it off. So there's no more thoughts to it. And next book that I'm currently reading and enjoying so much is Swift and Saddled by Lyra Sage. It is the second book in Rebel Blue Rand series. First book was Done and Dusted, which I absolutely loved, and this book I am eating it up and I'm leaving no crumbs. I am leaving no crumbs because I'm just enjoying it so much. This book is everything I need. Like, Lyra Sage is doing it again. And I am so ready for Lost and Lassoed, which is coming out on November 5. This is the third book in the series, and I'm over the moon that I am reading this book right now. If I had read this book earlier, there won't be another book to read, and now that I've read it, I can read the third book anytime I want, and I'll still remember everything that I've read in second book. I hope it makes sense. It does to me. So I think that is all. I hope you guys are going to stay with me on this journey of, cutting my physical TBR down, because it is a lot of books, and I recently got a TBR cart as well. You can't see it, but I've got it right here, and I made a short video regarding it. If you want to see like all of the books on my TBR cart, you can comment down below and I'll make it. I am planning to do reading vlogs to cut my physical TBR down, so those will be coming very, very soon, and you can look forward to my yearly reading wrap up, because there are a lot of gems in all of the books that I read this year, and I'm really excited to talk about those. So I hope you guys are going to stay with me on this channel and join this little bookish community. I'm so happy you're here. All right, I'll see you guys in my next video. Until then, goodbye.